In your opinion, what non-politician would make the best U.S. president? A rotund capybara. President Wayne Ellis owned a Mountain Dew Camacho. I have someone in mind, but the problem really is that anyone who would be a truly great president is the type of person who would never be interested in running for being president. John C. Reilly method acting as Dr. Steve Brule. An inanimate carbon rod. Dolly fucking Parton. The person who would make the best president is unfortunately the one who doesn't want the job. Mr. Rogers, nowhere in the question does it say the person has to be alive. LeVar Burton. Jon Stewart. Don't blame me, I voted for Kodos. Tuco Salamanca. Dolly Parton. Anyone who 1. Doesn't want it. And 2. Refuses lobbying money or money from corporations. Weird Al Yankovic. A bloodthirsty AI powered by ChatGPT. Johnny Sins. Keanu Reeves. He wouldn't care about the money or the power. He's already shown that neither are a priority in his film career. And he's a genuinely good guy who would probably use the position to help the most people possible. Martin Sheen. Just tell him to get back into character as Jed Bartlett and we're golden. If the car is broken, it doesn't matter who sits behind the wheel. Dave Grohl. People just naming likable celebrities. Well, we tried that for 4 years and it was a fucking disaster, so I'm gonna stick with people who understand how the government works. My dog. Terry Crews. Mark Cuban. Decent man who treats people well but shuts down BS without insulting and has a thick skin. He is a moderate. Good at breaking down a complex problem issue, able to explain it clearly to the average Joe and good at creating pragmatic solutions. Greg Popovich. Dude already has experience in government, is probably the most successful coach in all of sports, garners respect from basically everyone, has no patience for bullshit, and doesn't want the job, which probably ought to be a requirement. Dolly Parton. Samuel L. Jackson. Chapped. Dave Grohl. The man is damn near a saint. Nice try, Trump. You aren't getting a second term. If he's real then Jesus would be my pick. That'll set the evangelicals straight. Can you imagine if he showed up and started preaching love and forgiveness? They'll likely crucify him for not being Christian enough. Dolly Parton. Jon Stewart. Ron Swanson. D's nuts. Mark Cuban. None of them. Screw this idea of putting non-politicians in charge so they can be useless or harmful but be charismatic while they fuck up. It's like asking what musician we should hire as an air traffic controller because their voice is nice. This is a proven shit idea. Technically correct answer: Al Franken. Russell Brand. Steve Kerr. Brendan Fraser. Gary Sinise. Dolly Parton. Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart. Any Labrador or Golden Retriever. Jon Stewart. I've always thought Jon Stewart would make a great president. Chewbacca is my second option. Sarah Nelson. The flight attendant union leader. Though hopefully she's about to become a politician, aka the Secretary of Labor. A Midwestern farmer. Works hard, lives right and don't care about being liked. Talks plain and does what is right. Leslie Knope 2024. Jon Stewart. Keith David. Morgan Freeman. Jon Stewart. I wish so much that he'd run for office. Keanu Reeves. No one because the system is set up so they cannot fix things themselves. Kurt Vonnegut if he was still alive. Honestly, Mark Cuban. He's a really pragmatic person who seems to care about more common issues like prescription drug costs. The Kraken. Michael Scott. Cthulhu. Why choose the lesser evil? Jocko. Ashton Kutcher. He's charismatic, intelligent, and genuinely cares about people. I think he'd be able to make tough decisions and explain them in a way that conveys empathy for the ones hurt by the decision. I also think he's already wealthy enough to not need the bribes and has been in the public eye long enough and talked to Congress often enough that he wouldn't fold under tough questions. Gotta say Rick Astley for obvious reasons. Edit this looks like a Rickroll, I promise you it's not. Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. President Wayne Ellis owned a Mountain Dew Camacho. People will hate this answer, but the person I can immediately think of who most aligns with my own views is probably Bill Maher. Not saying being a condescending douche would actually make for a good presidential personality, but I would certainly agree with his platform of political positions. Mike Rowe. Roddy Ricch said he was a candidate in 2020, he might be alright. Joe Dirt. Lex Luthor would actually be a good president if Superman would not exist. The man is smart, has talent and has incredible problem-solving skills coupled with a shitload of dedication. Stephen Strange. Donut Operator. Lady Gaga. Danny DeVito. Pink. Jon Stewart on the left or Mark Cuban on the right. Ted Kaczynski. General James Mad Dog Mantis. Dr. Cornel West. Jon Stewart. Greg Popovich. Keanu Reeves. He wouldn't want the job, hence why he would excel at it. Those that crave the job have been worthless. Ice Cube. He could do a new rendition of his song, "You Better Check Yourself Before You Wreck Yourself, 'cause President bullets are bad for your health." A cold can of Dr. Pepper. Someone who doesn't want to be president. My next door neighbor Kyle. Mike Rowe. Chuck Norris. Definitely Dr. Ken Jeong. That town in Alaska that has had a cat as their mayor has seemed pretty consistent, And with the last couple presidents we've had, I'm down. Mike Rowe, except that he's smart enough to not take the job. Low-key, Shia LaBeouf, but he has to be method acting as Teddy Roosevelt. Jon Stewart, Dolly Parton, Ted Lasso, Keanu Reeves, Bill Burr. I'd vote for a Stewart Colbert ticket. Jon Stewart, Mr. Beast. I'm paraphrasing here, but basically anyone capable of getting themselves elected president should under no circumstances be allowed to do the job. Douglas Adams, I think. Al Bundy, Tom Hartman, Jon Stewart seems to really care about people and is fairly intelligent. The next JFK, man shrugging, Jon Stewart, Weird Al, Jon Stewart for president. Jon Stewart, the only answer is Tom Hanks. Jon Stewart, it would have to be somebody extraordinary. Trump is a good example of why a non-politician typically can't succeed. The fact is, if he was even remotely presidential he would have gotten re-elected. It doesn't matter how much you agree with his positions. He lost the House, the Senate and the presidency after one term because he didn't know how to be a politician. Ready, go. Keanu Reeves, Terry Crews. I think Jon Stewart would fight for the American people. Tooth and nail. I will do it. Born poor, made it somewhat in life through blood, sweat and tears. I hate rich and powerful corporations and want everyone to have a better life. No qualifications or political affiliation, no party I belong to. I really don't give a shit about big issues. Just want tax money spent on the citizens, not on wars or other stupid shit. Vote for me. You've tried that twice already, America, and it was fucking awful each time. Maybe stick to those qualified. Maybe Jon Stewart, Dolly Parton. She would unite left, right, everyone. Jon Stewart, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Mark Cuban, Dolly Parton. Has anyone thought about Jon Stewart? Job Stewart, of course. Jon Stewart, Ron Swanson, Jon Stewart, Mike Rowe. It's too late, I already flushed. Kermit the Frog. I think the president should be a politician, not a random person. The president is a figurehead with very little real power except in emergencies. I think we, the people, just need to take back some power from Congress. Why can't the people vote on issues? Why is every bill full of garbage hidden in 400 pages of the bill? That's what you get out of a politician, a hidden agenda. Jon Stewart, Matthew McConaughey, Jon Stewart. If the election was tomorrow he would have my vote. Jon Stewart, Denzel Washington, Robert Downey Jr. because he doesn't take drugs anymore. Me, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. Jocko Willink, Mark Cuban. Maybe a billionaire, but he at least has some empathy. Jocko Willink, me. That's not a brag about myself, but a show of how little respect I have for the presidency or the political process itself. It's trash, and I 100% believe picking up some random teenager off the street and having them make the decisions for the country would improve everyone's life dramatically. Kit Harington, but he doesn't want it. I'm not sure if it counts since he was a politician once, but he's been out of office a decade. He's also not eligible, but since we're dreaming, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Someone not in media. Considering we have that whole non-politician thing ago, and it was a dumpster fire, how about we stick with someone with actual government experience? President for life, Ms. Dolly Parton. You shitty morph. The best thing for Americans would be to have a Canadian as president. I vote Ryan Reynolds. Jon Stewart, Thomas Sowell, Jon Stewart, Keanu Reeves, Mark Cuban. None. You need the experience of working in government to get things done. Every time someone comes along who claims to be an outsider, he is either lying or incompetent, or hopelessly blocked by older, wiser heads that have been in place for a long time. And anyone who comes along and claims that he is going to run government like a business is also a liar. Too many government programs and practices are so thoroughly ingrained that no one could undo them in 8 years.